Technology has completely changed the world that we live in and has not only made difficult tasks far easier to complete, but has made things possible that previously we couldn't even dream of. Machines are now more complex and powerful than ever, and designers are continually surprising the world with their new creations. Prepare yourself for a journey into a world of amazing innovation as we take a look at 15 incredible machines you wouldn't believe existed. Number 15. AirCar. Since the first personal vehicles became widespread, people have dreamt about owning a car that can also double as an aircraft. But despite numerous attempts, technological limitations have prevented the concept from becoming a reality, until now. In early July of 2021, the AirCar made its first successful flight in Slovakia and has paved the way for this becoming an accessible machine for everyday consumers in the coming decades. Invented by Stefan Klein, who also piloted it during the recent flight, it's able to transform from being a car to an aircraft in just 3 minutes. Its wings and tail can completely deploy or retract in that time, and the only limitation is that it needs a runway to take off from and land on. The company that's funded the development of the AirCar has so far built 2 prototypes, the first of which is powered by a 160 brake horsepower BMW engine, and across its 40 hours worth of test flights has achieved a top speed of 118 miles an hour, or about 190 kilometers an hour, and a maximum altitude of 8,200 feet. The second prototype is much more powerful, so is expected to be able to reach greater speeds and stay in the air longer than the 35 minutes the first can manage. And the hope is that the designs can be perfected over the next few years before the first mass-produced model is ready to go into production by the end of the decade. Number 14. ONYX Exoskeleton. It's not too uncommon that inventors try to recreate machines they've seen in science fiction movies. After seeing Ripley battle an alien while wearing a type of exoskeleton suit, there have been countless attempts at creating one for real. Again, the technology hasn't quite advanced enough to make this possible yet, but recent developments have now meant that prototypes have already been built and are currently being tested. Leading the way is the ONYX, a lower body-powered exoskeleton that's been designed by Lockheed Martin for military use. Made with rigid and flexible structures that allow it to conform to the wearer's body, but also to absorb weights and impacts. It supplements the operator's own abilities and has been shown to not only significantly increase their mobility, but allows them to cover far greater distances before becoming fatigued. Tracking sensors feed into the onboard computer system, which also uses artificial intelligence, learning algorithms to predict the movement of each joint. This allows it to, for example, provide a boost to the knee joint at the exact moment that it's needed. And this extra power dramatically reduces the overall stress that the lower body has exerted upon it. Currently offering a battery life of around 8 hours, when the technology becomes cheaper, it'll surely become commonplace on work sites where people are required to carry heavy loads and cover long distances, and will subsequently improve overall efficiency. Number 13. Remote-controlled Dragon. Robot technology has improved a huge amount in the past few decades, and what was once a novelty is now offering real-world uses and applications. But at the same time, it's enabling people to build the toys that they've always dreamed of. It's perhaps no surprise then that the largest walking robot in the world is actually a dragon, and it can even breathe fire. Known as the Tradino, it was created by a German electronics company for use in the performance of a traditional folktale called Drakenstich, which is performed each year in the Bavarian town of Fürth in Wald. The dragon, which is 51 feet long, has a 40-foot wingspan, is fully remote control, and is powered by a 2-liter turbo diesel engine. The skin of the beast is made of polyurethane and glass-reinforced plastics, and has its veins, which on command can bleed 21 gallons worth of blood onto the stage. The flames from its mouth are produced by liquid gas and overall weighs approximately 11 tons. The only thing it can't currently do is actually fly, but the designers expect that by the time Tradino needs to be replaced, the technology will exist to make this possible on the next iteration. Number 12. SAM 100. We've been warned for years that robots will eventually take most of our jobs. And while this hasn't come to fruition on a wide scale yet, machines are already making their way into the real world that could do just that. The SAM 100 is a perfect example of that, and could be soon about to change the face of building sites around the globe. Designed by a New York-based company called Construction Robotics, it's a bricklaying machine that's able to lay as many as 3,000 bricks a day, which is 6 times what a single human worker is able to. Made up of a conveyor belt, a robot arm, and a concrete pump, it uses lasers to ensure that the bricks are perfectly positioned as it moves along the wall. The current SAM 100 isn't completely independent though, and it still needs a person to smooth over the concrete before the bricks can be placed. But the company is already developing a tool that will be able to automatically do this too. They go to lengths to explain why this won't cause jobs to disappear, partly because of the cost. The machines are sold for around $500,000, but also because every worksite has a slightly different requirement due to each building being uniquely designed. The most likely outcome is that for the time being, robots like these will be used to supplement human workers and become responsible for the heavy lifting. But with the current pace of development, full autonomy doesn't seem to be too far away. Number 11. The Athena Laser. For most of human history, weapons have relied on ballistic projectiles, such as rocks, arrows, and bullets to inflict damage. But with the advancement of laser technology, we could well be about to enter a new age of directed energy weapons. Lockheed Martin, along with the US military, has been designing and testing a range of different techniques to harness the power of lasers, and their latest attempt, known as Athena, is unbelievably effective. Standing for Advanced Test High Energy Asset, it's described as being a spectral beam combined fiber laser, which essentially means it's made up of several low-powered lasers that work together to produce a high-powered beam. While the company has yet to reveal the actual energy output of the device, the main reason for developing it is to use it as an anti-drone weapon, because they're expected to become the biggest threat on future battlefields. In a recent test, Athena was shown to track, attack, and disable a drone in a way that no other machine can do. Instead of knocking the target out in one strike, it focuses energy on a specific point over a few seconds, which causes it to heat up and begin to melt the internal circuitry. Land vehicles have also been shown to be disabled by this technology, and it'll likely become commonplace far sooner than anyone realizes. Number 10. Fast Telescope. We have only just begun to scratch the surface of what there is to see in the universe, and the scientists are continuously developing new tools that can be used to peer up into the heavens. While space telescopes are undoubtedly the best way to get clear images, they are incredibly expensive to build and maintain, so the other option is to build larger and larger telescopes on Earth. Currently, the largest to have ever been constructed and enter operations is known as the FAST telescope, which means the 500-meter aperture spherical radio telescope. It was built in a natural geological depression in the Guizhou province of southwest China and took its first images in 2016. The larger a telescope is, the more difficult it is to calibrate correctly. So to overcome this issue, the team behind the FAST telescope designed it in a completely new way. It has an active surface made up of 4,500 metal panels, which means a computer can precisely alter the orientation of each one. Furthermore, the structure that contains the feed antenna is suspended above the dish on cables, which are attached to winches that are automatically controlled by computers, removing the need for humans to perform the complex calculations needed to make it work properly. Already having discovered new pulsars and a variety of other objects in space, the biggest surprise about the FAST telescope is how popular it has become with visitors. So many people travel to the site each year that authorities have actually had to limit the number of observations it's able to make, so it's not yet operating at its full capacity. Number 9. The Stratolaunch. Due to the need to carry heavier cargo or more passengers, aircraft designs have become larger and larger over the past decades. And while the trend is now turning to produce jets that are smaller and more fuel efficient, there's one industry that still requires a heavy lift ability: spaceflight. Rather than using huge rockets to lift capsules all the way into space, one alternative is to use a plane to lift it up high enough that the rockets on the spacecraft can be much smaller and cheaper to produce. Stratolaunch Systems, which is a company that was founded by Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen, has been leading the way in developing this technology and created its launch vehicle called the Stratolaunch. The plane has a twin fuselage design, each of which is 238 feet long and has 12 landing gear wheels and 2 nose gear wheels on each, which gives the whole aircraft a total of 28 wheels. Its wingspan, which measures about 385 feet, is the largest of any plane that's ever taken to the skies and is wider than a football field is long. Designed to carry a load in excess of 500,000 pounds, the Stratolaunch is able to reach an altitude of 35,000 feet before releasing its cargo. While the plane itself has only performed 2 test flights and is unlikely to ever take a spacecraft to altitude, the proof that this concept works means that it could well be a technology that's regularly used in the future as space travel becomes more common. Number 8. The Iron Monster. The two main things that limit the speed at which infrastructure construction can take place is the availability of the materials and the huge number of workers that are needed to carry it out. This has posed a problem in China, where the government has embarked on trillions of dollars worth of expansion in the past decade. And to keep up with the need, new machines were designed specifically for the job. The SLJ-932, also known as the Iron Monster, is a particularly impressive machine. And it's because of this that so many bridges have been built through the difficult terrain. It essentially provides everything needed to construct a bridge on top of concrete pillars, and only needs a handful of people to operate it compared to the thousands it would likely need without it. The machine carries and lifts a section of a bridge into place and can connect the pillars with pieces too, before rolling back to pick up the next piece and doing it all over again. At 300 feet long and weighing 580 tons, its 64 wheels allow it to move at up to 3 miles an hour, which, even though it sounds slow, is a significant improvement when the alternative involves installing cranes for every section. Number 7. Panther Fire Truck. While air travel is one of the safest ways to travel between places, when things go wrong, they can be disastrous. One of the biggest concerns for airport operators is how flammable the kerosene fuel jets use is. And if this is set alight on the ground, it can be extremely difficult to extinguish. Luckily, fire crews at airports don't have to rely on the type of fire engines that patrol the streets in case of house fires, and have a much more powerful version that can get to the site of an incident and put the flames out in a matter of minutes, something that means the difference between life and death. One of the leading designs is known as the Panther, which is available in various different sizes. The largest and most powerful is an 8x8 machine that, with an engine that produces up to 1,450 horsepower, has a top speed of 84 miles an hour. Offering up to 4,000 gallons or 19,000 liters of extinguishing power, it's able to pump the water or foam at a speed of 50 miles an hour in less than 25 seconds. Meaning there's truly no better suited vehicle to deal with emergencies at an airport. Number 6. The Octocong. Construction in the ocean is far more difficult than on land, mainly because it's not as easy to install support pylons for the foundations. But with the development of the Octocong, this is no longer the difficult process that it once was, and is now even more efficient, which means increasingly complicated projects are actually realistic. Recently, China has built a $10.7 billion bridge network to connect Hong Kong with Zhuhai in Macau. And because this involved building vast stretches of bridges, as well as the creation of several artificial islands, it required a series of 72-foot wide steel piles to be secured. The only machine in the world capable of doing this is the Octocong, which connects 8 vibratory pile drivers together, each of which is powered by a 1,200 horsepower Cat engine. Each of these hammers is carefully arranged and balanced so they will work in tandem with one another, and this enabled them to drive 120 of these steel piles, each of which weighs more than 600 tons, into the seabed. It's a phenomenal design that requires huge computing power to ensure everything's working perfectly. There's such a small margin for error that the technology has only been available for the past decade to build something like this, and you can only imagine what other projects it'll facilitate in the coming years. Number 5. The Z-Pulsed Power Facility. Understanding the biggest mysteries of science requires the use of extremely powerful machines, which are often some of the most complex structures ever built. The Large Hadron Collider is famous for this, but it's not the only one, and the Sandia National Laboratories in Albuquerque, New Mexico, is where you'll find the biggest electromagnetic wave generator in the world, known as the Z-Pulsed Power Facility. The idea is that it enables scientists to test the response of materials under extreme temperatures and pressures, which are vital to know what to use when making spacecraft, nuclear power components, and various other cutting-edge technologies. To do this, energy is discharged from capacitors through a plasma tube, and this has been able to create temperatures in excess of 3.6 billion degrees Fahrenheit, or 2 billion degrees Celsius. Only 2 other places on Earth are able to do anything similar, and the biggest mystery of all surrounding this ability is that it's significantly higher than the designers thought would be possible, leading to the suggestion that the facility may well have unintentionally discovered a previously unknown scientific phenomenon. Number 4. SVM 1000. When railways were first built across vast distances throughout the world, it took the combined efforts of many thousands of workers to complete, most of whom had to endure horrific conditions while doing so. Currently, more railway track is being laid around the world each year than ever before. But with the use of modern technology, it's far safer and more efficient than those early days. One of the biggest rail infrastructure projects ever seen is underway in India. They're making use of an incredible machine called the SVM-1000 that's responsible for most of the hard work. Machines like this are able to carry the sleepers and the rails that are needed to lay the track, and have hydraulic arms at the front that they use to lift and put them into position. The latest design of the SVM-1000 even has its own power generator on board, so it doesn't need to rely on local energy, and it simply rolls along the track that has already been laid, and adds the extra track at the end. With a continuous supply of materials, a single SVM-1000 can lay up to 187 miles of track a year, which is significantly increasing rail capacity in India, where it's needed the most. Number 3. The Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory. There are still many mysteries to be uncovered and understood about the universe, and one of the big problems researchers face is that some phenomena that have been theorized to exist are extremely difficult to detect, something that's made even more difficult by the atmosphere on our planet and human activity. One such phenomenon that's expected to explain much of what we don't know is gravitational waves, and construction began in 1999 on 2 machines specifically designed to find them. Known collectively as the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory. One of them is located in Hanford, Washington, and the other in Livingston, Louisiana, which is 1,800 miles or about 3,000 kilometers away. Buried deep underground to eliminate external interference, the laser interferometers are about 2.5 miles long and use the physics of laser light and space to detect vibrations in the fabric of the universe. The reason why there are 2 is to confirm the readings, because if both detectors pick up the same signal, it represents a much more accurate reading than if just one did. Amazingly, they picked up their first signal in 2015, which was a wave that originated in the southern sky more than 1.5 billion years ago. As more are detected, it's hoped that we'll finally be able to understand what they are and what causes them, and the impact this has had on the development of the universe. Number 2. La Princesse. Apart from military or scientific uses, one of the other main purposes that encourages the development of new technologies and machines is entertainment. And one of the most spectacular and surprising art installations ever devised was revealed in Liverpool, England in 2008. La Princesse is a 50-foot wide mechanical spider that was designed and built by a French performance art company. Made of wood, steel, and a series of complex hydraulic parts, the 40-ton monster took a year to build. As a part of the celebrations in Liverpool for being the European capital of culture that year, the spider walked through the street and climbed up the side of a building, a performance that had to be meticulously planned. To operate it requires 12 people to be strapped into its body at crucial sections, as well as 16 cranes, 6 forklift trucks, 8 cherry pickers, and an additional 250 crew members. Even with all of this support, the spider can only move at 2 miles an hour, but that's surely enough. Surrounded by musicians playing threatening music and pyrotechnic displays, the streets of Liverpool had never before seen anything like it, nor have they since. Number 1. Fugaku Supercomputer. Computer technology has evolved exponentially in the past decades, and it's amazing to think that the power contained within our smartphones is significantly more powerful than a room-sized computer was able to achieve 20 or just 30 years ago. The development of large supercomputers is still ongoing, however. While the attention of many has been diverted to developing quantum computers, there's still an arms race between nations around the world to have the fastest and most powerful traditional computer. The current world record holder for the fastest computer is called Fugaku, and it has been installed at the Riken Center for Computational Science in Kobe, Japan. Work began on it in 2014, and by the time it became fully operational in April of 2021, it had eclipsed the competition. During tests, it managed to achieve 1.42 exaflops, which is the first time any machine had exceeded 1 exaflop, and the designers behind it believe that it may still have quite some way to go. To achieve this required a significant amount of hardware, though, which included almost 160,000 A64FX CPUs, which individually are more powerful than the ones found in most home computers. Fugaku wasn't simply designed to break records, however. It has already been put to work to help model the spread of diseases like COVID-19 and perform complex calculations related to the modeling of the universe and new designs for energy production. Watch our Machines playlist for more top 15 videos about awesome machines. Sit back, relax, and binge watch all of our best machine videos.